Hey man. No, I'm not in Ukraine. I am in Romania, uh, where I used to live. I used to live here many years ago, not many, a few years back before I moved to Ukraine. And then after the war, I just came here immediately because it was the fastest place to, get to. And I could stay there or stay here and kind of assess the situation in Ukraine. Was it going to be a fast conflict, quick, long conflict? And because it's looking like a year on now, nothing really big is changing. I'm going to be moving back to the U.S. In a few months. I'm just waiting on some stuff to get cleared, and then I'm gonna go and go back to the motherland. And yeah, so I don't really miss Ukraine that much, and I don't like Romania that much. I'm somewhat excited to go to America. I mean, there's buildings and people, you know. It's not like it's magically going to change my life. Um, it will be slightly more convenient not having to deal with people. When people aren't part of your culture, there's always going to be conflict. The only way you eliminate that is if you speak their language fluently, like conversationally. But even then, they'll never really consider you one of them, unless you're like some celebrity or a highly respected figure in their country. Then you'll get integrated. But I don't have any desire to be accepted by Romanian society, and I don't speak much Romanian outside of like basic conversation. So I will never be Romanian or really part of this society. So it will be nice to be in a country where people speak my language. It's just a lot easier for a lot of things. I can navigate around much more easily. I know what to expect from Americans, and I know what to expect from um, I know what to expect from Romanians, and I don't really like what I have to expect from Romanians. I don't know why the audio goes off when I don't talk. Like it just goes blank. There's something. Okay, the audio's current stream bitrate 0 is lower than a recommended bitrate. We recommend that you use an audio stream bitrate of 128. Audio stream bitrate. Let's see. Where do I change that? Ah, 160. Seems to be okay. But it just stops when I don't talk, which is interesting. Like if I stop talking, the mic completely cuts out. I guess that's good. You don't pick up ambient noise. Can't really be too surprised there's no one here. I kind of just oh, here we go. Good to hear you're safe. Coming back to the States. Let me ask you, is there a big advantage for a guy in your 20s to move to a big city like New York City for pickup? Um, yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you want to get good fast, a big city is a very good way to do that. Um, because you're dealing with, especially New York. So New York would be like the highest level game area you could possibly go to, right? I mean, yeah. I mean, there's really nothing. New York City is like, I think it's even more socially advanced than LA, because LA is the, well, it's a different type. I mean, it's not like I've swung in those circles, but I can make a pretty general assessment just because I know people. Um, I wouldn't, yeah, I wouldn't underestimate New York City. I mean, it's just a city. It's not like you go there and it's like, oh, you're not level 7, so you can't, pick up girls here. But you are going to be, competing with very high level guys, which is going to make you very good if you're willing to stick it out. Um, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a bunch of people walking around, right? So New York City, a lot of people. What's a lot of people give you? A lot of opportunities. You know, you're never gonna gain a reputation in New York City, right? Unless you hang around specific circles or specific venues for a long period of time. Like go to that gym, or you always go to that bar, or you always go to that club or whatever. Then yeah, of course you're gonna develop a reputation. But the good thing about somewhere like New York is you can get lost. You know, just go pick up girls, keep a low profile. Seems like a pretty cool situation. Um, the only thing for being a guy in his 20s is New York City is really fucking expensive, right? Um, but if you can survive in New York, you can survive anywhere. I mean, of course, the wages are higher too, probably, or else no one would be able to live there. But obviously, people live there, so people survive. Um, but yeah, dude, and it has a transit system, right? So New York is one of those places where you have every type of game. That would actually be the coolest part about New York, is you have the subway. Like, oh my god, subway is like the one of the best places to meet girls, because you can just go sit in the fucking subway on like a stop and just sit on a bench, go approach a girl, come back. Like, there's no risks. Like, no one's gonna be like, hey, that guy's been sitting there for 5 hours picking up girls. He's already gotten on his train, you know, and left, and he's not paying attention to you. It's just like and there's just tons of girls. So New York would be like, if you can swing it, I can't imagine a better place than New York, right? I guess the weather in the winter, right? But then you could just do fucking Tinder. You can do online gaming. So you could just fucking sit in your house and order takeaway and just fucking swipe and practice your texting. You know. What's your favorite way of meeting and dating girls? Day game. Day game. Day game is the best. There's no drunk assholes. Girls don't have their guard up too much. Um, they already respect you for the fact that you're going to approach them, which is something that most guys wouldn't be willing to do. Um, it's unlimited, right? Like in a bar and a club, you have to watch your behavior because you have like a mini reputation when you go out to a bar or a club. I mean, yeah, once it gets wild, people really aren't paying attention, but and it's just the shitty people. Like there's people, so not only is there a high quantity of shitty behavior simply for the fact that all the men are competing for the women, but then all of their animal evil instincts are magnified because now they're drunk. I mean, I used to work in a club, dude. I fucking know. Like, it's so fucking, like, people just get in fights all the time over status and girls. It's just really not worth it. So I really don't like night game. Day game is the best. You just go out when you want. You see a bunch of girls. I can do 15 approaches in the entire night. I mean, you could spam approach at night, but like I said, there's a reputation that you have to be somewhat aware of. You have to be cognizant that you know, someone might be paying attention to you. But day game is you just approach a girl and she goes off and does her own thing, and then you turn the corner and approach another girl and she has no idea who you are. It's totally a blank slate. Which has its negatives too, because if you do build up a cool reputation in a bar or a club and this really hot girl's all over you, and then whatever, it doesn't work out, and then some other girl had seen that earlier and sees you walking around and she saw you make out with some really hot girl. Maybe you didn't pull her, but all she knows is the fact that some hot girl made out with you. Boom. Now your chances with that girl are just like much higher, right? So there are advantages to night game situations. Online dating is the only good thing about it is that you can practice your texting. That's the only thing that I like about it is that you can practice your texting. And you don't have to like go out and approach a girl and then get her number and then text her and then potentially like you can experiment with a lot of things with online dating. But that's the only good thing about it. I would highly suggest day game is the king. What level should I aspire to reach if I just want to get out of the game and wife up someone? Well, I don't think you should think of it in terms of levels. I think you should think of it in terms of um you should think of it in terms of did I get what I want? So, if you can get a girl that is your ideal girl, I mean, there's always going to be another girl who's hot or hotter in a different way. Like you might find a girl who has like the like she's a you know a really hot girl in terms of like an Ariana Grande kind of chick, like petite, cute, right? But then there's a different girl who's like tall and slender, and they're both really hot girls. They're just different. So you're gonna have to obviously settle on one girl unless you somehow are gonna pull off like multiple long-term relationships at the same time. So you want to find a girl that makes you happy look-wise. Then you you test to see if you date her for a couple months and you really see if she has all the potentials of a long-term partner. I guess I know what you're kind of asking. What you're kind of asking is like, what if I'm not good enough to actually figure out what's the best for me, right? And I get out of the game too early and I don't hit my peak. I mean, that's always I guess that's always a potential, right? There's always that fear that like, what if I had stuck a little bit longer and I found like my real dream girl, right? I I suppose you could always when it comes to things like like sensual pleasures, like you could always make more money. You can always find it. You get a new the girl. Like it's a black hole. There's an infinite opportunity for constant improvement if you want. But is that going to, is that going to make you happy? You are going to have to decide at some point if you want a wife that, if you do it right, you're dedicating for life. And the only thing that should separate you is death or a very, very serious, unrecoverable breach of trust, or you two really just like cannot make it work and you don't want to be around each other anymore. Um, Social circles. Oh yeah, I left out social circle. Um, well, so you asked me my favorite way, right? So the problem with that question is that it's very like I'm judging it by my current desires. Um, like if I was gonna go out and just like pound the pavement, what would I be doing? Social circle, I liked when I was younger, but I don't like anymore because it's very fucking time consuming. It's probably actually the most time consuming of all the game types. Hi, Mimi. Hi, baby. How are you? Huh? Okay. You see what, Papa? You don't want to stay with me? And it's time consuming because you got to maintain those friendships. You got to hang out with these people. And I know that, I mean, obviously you enjoy hanging out with these people, right? But there is a certain level of like, if someone comes over and you're bored, you don't just tell them, all right, fuck off. You know, like you get to hang out with them for a while. And that can get very, very, very exhausting to constantly, and you have to maintain these friendships. Because if you don't, some friendships can have that quality of, we don't talk, and then we reconnect 5 years later and we just totally just, it's like we left off yesterday. But not a lot of friendships are like that. A lot of friendships require some level of maintenance. um, and if you don't, because most people desire to have social circles, right? I don't desire to have social circles. Social circles are useful, right? I like friendships to a limited degree. Like, if I don't have something that I'm actively working on with you, or like we're not playing a game together, then aside from checking in with you and making sure you're okay, there's really no reason to like stay actively in contact, right? I have like one friend that I really actively stay in contact with because we just like send memes to each other, but we also work on stuff together. Like we used to play games. So, you know, I'm very okay with being isolated, so I don't really feel the need to constantly maintain a friendship. So it's a very time consuming activity to have a friend group. Um, and if you want to be active in it, right? It's not like your friends are going to be like, oh, he hasn't hung out with us in 3.5 weeks, and therefore he's, his friend value has lowered by 7%, so he's no longer alpha of the group, right? It's more like if you because we're talking about game, right? So to have these social circles active, you have to be hanging out with these people and doing things. And there's got to be girls, right? So you got to be like, you got to be having parties, them coming over for like puzzle nights and shit. Um, and social circles are so fickle because people get, when people they get in relationships, and then everyone's fucking boring. Everyone in relationships is god fucking awful boring, right? Because I mean, there's no more hunt, right? And if I'm going to be bored, then I'd rather be bored home alone. These are all my personality things, right? So I guess you asked me my favorite way. So day game is perfect. You go out, you pick up, you talk to the girl, and you get her number, and you come home. Or if it's like you can pull off a same date thing, then yeah, that's great. And then you can turn it into something more. Um, that's what I like. It's the most. It has the most potential. Like social circles, like, oh, someone brings a girl who, like, I don't know, they're friends with, and then you're talking to her all night and da 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 da. But social circles, such a slow game. Like the only time when I really really pounded like my peak social circle was in college. I mean, in real life, like, yeah, you would have a friend and you see them out, and then they introduce you to someone, and blah 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 blah. Or you go out for a party and they're like, hey, you're good friends with the guy, and he's like, hey, this other group that I'm friends with, they invite you. That's where the real picking up in social circle works. Is you have a friend that you're friends with, and then he's friends with another social circle, so he invites you out to meet a new social circle, and then you kind of you get temporarily you're kind of circling around that circle. But then I have to make a decision, like, I'm gonna try and fuck one of those girls. But usually that's gonna end up with either succeeding and things going well, or you fuck it up and then, you're just that guy who came into the friend group and wanted to fuck one of the girls that he met. It has a lot of potential to make you look not that great. Like, you're not a guy they want to hang around because they know you're gonna go for pussy. And it's also the fact that the guys in the group are gonna get jealous and defensive. They're going to they're gonna start to, they're not gonna want you to come around again, right? It's just simple things like that. And And I know that sounds really weird. Like I don't really want to hang. I don't want to hang around these people. Like the only thing I really want is the pussy. And I suppose I'm just honest with myself about what I want. I mean, most of the time I really don't enjoy talking to people. If there's not a purpose for me talking to you, like I've done enough of the hangouts. Like I've spent enough of my life hanging out with guys. And there's no, there's not a lot that we can say that I can have a conversation with someone and you teach me something interesting. So I don't know why I'm really spending my time hanging out. How do you balance being direct and not going overboard? So what you need to do, a lot of it is trial and error, right? Because you could tell one girl, like, damn, you're making me horny, I'd love to fuck you. And because of the context, it's okay. You could have another girl and you like, stare at her tits too long and she kind of gets offended like you're being too sexual. So it depends on there's really no such thing as overboard unless it's overboard. Like overboard is determined by what she's open for you to do. You had a message, then you retracted it. One of my cat's hairs is in my mouth. God damn it. I'm assuming you made a typo or something and you're rewriting it. Okay, well, let me ask you a question. How much experience? Is this all theoretical? Have you tried being direct? Or is this some theoretical, like, question? You're doing it now. Okay. Um, I pull back if I'm being too much. I mean, yeah, of course they're gonna pull back. So, okay, there's a difference between pulling back and rejecting you. Pulling back eventually leads to rejection. Or if you do something so bad that she pulls back so hard, it hits that point where she's like, I'm out of here. I'm done. And she shuts down. Auto rejection. But just because a girl pulls back doesn't mean you can't pull her back from where she pulled back. Like you can make a mistake and be too direct, and then you see that she, pulls back a bit. And as long as it's not like disgust, right? Which you have to like, hey, like she reacts in a certain way, and you have to explain or justify. Um, but if she just kind of like, oh, okay, and then, you give her really a direct compliment, or you say something, and she's like, you can just relax, and you can pull back, and then ease out the tension. So like go back to normal conversation. Like if you say something really direct, and it's too much, then you can. Oh, they reciprocate, but I still feel that the balance isn't there. Maybe I need more experience. Okay, well, if they're reciprocating, okay, this is something that I went encountered. They would reciprocate, but they're not giving the same level of energy as I am, right? Here's the thing, though. Maybe they're just really nervous because they're not used to guys being super direct, right? They're not used to guys being so forward about being direct. So when they reciprocate, we're like, okay, they're saying the words, but they're not really putting the same energy behind it. Well, I would end up sleeping with those girls, or sometimes I'd lose girls because I'm like, oh, they're not giving it back, and I'd start to get nervous, or like, oh, I feel like maybe I'm being creepy, blah blah. But they were giving it back. They're just nervous. Like you're out here like swinging your dick, like I want to fuck you, and they're like, holy shit, right? And then they say it back, like, yeah, I'd love to suck some dick, whatever, and they're not going to say it with the same level of charisma and energy you are because it's nerve-wracking to like be that open and honest, right? Like it's very it's I mean no one's doing it. It's so rare, right? And it's taken you had to think about this so much and practice it. She's a girl, so her game is kind of not the same as yours. It's more of a defensive like poking kind of game, whereas a man's game is more like it's assertive. So for her to be direct like that, like the fact that a girl's even reciprocating is a huge like you should see that as like this. Like a girl being direct with you is like phew. Even if it doesn't have the energy behind it, it's still like for a girl to actually admit like, yeah, I loved choking on your dick. Or like, yeah, I love being your whore. Or like, maybe you haven't fucked her yet and you're talking about sex and she's like, yeah, I'd love that. Right? For her to have the ovaries to actually say that to you is a huge sign that she's into you. So you should take that as a W. Hey Hector, having difficulty in having an engaging conversation. I approached a girl today who had a dog. The dog wasn't friendly at all. Having no knowledge on dogs, how to engage ahead. Don't talk about the dog. I know what you're saying. You're like, oh, how do I be interesting here? Like, I want to talk about her dog. Like, oh, what breed is it? Da, 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 da. Like that would give you. I remember I picked up a girl. Oh, I walked past her. I was like, oh, cute dog. And then I looked at her, and she was wearing a hoodie, and it was up because it was late at night. She probably was just out to walk the dog. And I saw her face, and she was fucking beautiful. I was like, oh wow, you're really beautiful. And she just looked at me with like these big beady eyes. It was just like, thanks, and smiled. And I knew it was like real attraction. So I walked up, talked to her, got her phone number, and then we went out like 2 times, 3 times, and then she came over and we fucked. And we had a little bit of a little relationship for a while. You don't have to talk about the dog, but I know what you mean. You're kind of like, I want to be more interesting. So, how to have an engaging conversation. Having an engaging conversation is a lot about being interesting. Or sorry, interested. that was fucking that was fucking useful. Having an interesting conversation is about being interesting. And then I just space out. It's about being interested, right? So when you show interest in someone, that's like the height of what make it's half of what makes you interesting, but it's one of the best. Like everyone's favorite topic is themselves. So if you ask about her, then she's going to be interested. But you have to know how to ask the right questions in the right way. That's your fundamentals. So she didn't reciprocate at all. She just smiled and left with a weird ass expression. That wasn't your conversation abilities. That was she wasn't attracted to you. So what I'm guessing is you tried to talk about the dog and then you tried to talk to her. People with dogs are used to people talking to them. Like, and guys especially. Like, you're not the only guy who's ever thought about, oh, girl with a dog. Oh, here's an easy, entrance. Like, I can just use the dog and then talk to her. Like, I remember I've walked up to girls and, like, I started petting their dog. I was like, oh, cute dog. And I look at her and I say, what's your name? And she literally just walks off. Like, just, oh, yeah, lets me pet the dog. And then just, like, hears me say, what's your name? And she's like, oh, he wants to flirt. No, thanks. And it just walked off. And I was just like, huh. But then I was like, you know what? She probably gets that a lot. A guy will try to approach her with the dog and then use that as an excuse to talk to her. She just wasn't interested. I don't think that had to do with your conversation. So that's your fundamentals. Okay, if you're how you know it's your fundamentals or how you know it's your conversation. If you're walking up to girls and you start conversations and they're just like barely ever reciprocating, that's a fundamentals issue. They're just not attracted to you. You either need to change what, like, how you're doing the compliment or how you're starting the conversation. You have to, you can do the outside stuff like change your fashion, get a haircut, take care of the passive fundamentals, but it's usually your active fundamentals that are at issue. Hey, excuse me, you're really pretty. What's your name? Oh, hi, nice. I'm Josh, or cool, or Joshy, right? Whatever. I'm Joshy. What are you up to? Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, cool. Da, 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 da. Like, are you engaging with your style of speech? Or are you like, hey, excuse me, I saw you over here and you're really cute. Oh, yeah. What type of dog is that? What's a border collie? Okay, cool. And then you're trying to think of a Wikipedia article on border collies so that you can give her some sort of interesting information that she'll be like, oh my god. Da, da, da. So you just start you ask her about herself, right? But if you can't even get lift off, then it's a fundamentals issue, an attraction issue. If girls are reciprocating really quickly and giving you like, oh hi, yeah, my name's Melissa. Oh Josh, nice to meet you. Da da da. And then after liftoff starts going and you're flying, then and then if you crash, then you suck at conversation. So you're getting attraction, you're just struggling with conversation. That's how you tell the difference. So you're the second guy. Yeah, you're the guy who's like, okay, my headset died. Let me see. Is it working? Yeah, it's working. Okay. My headset just died. So so yeah, you're having a fundamentals issue. So you need to fix your fundamentals. And don't worry about one of the hardest things with any skill is putting the appropriate amount of focus and attention on the thing that is needed. Right? You could spend 100 hours trying to fix your oh, I need to come up with good topics. I gotta look up Wikipedia articles on dog types, right? And maybe that makes occasionally you get a bite and a hook with a girl and she's down to talk and you have a little bit better of a conversation. But you would get so much better at conversation if you fixed your fundamentals and then got more attraction, and that would get you into more conversations. And so you naturally get good at conversation. So because you fix your fundamentals, in the next 100 approaches, you get 20 good conversations rather than 3 because you have shitty fundamentals. And in those 20 good conversations, you develop more conversational skills than you did spending 100 hours reading books and trying to become more knowledgeable. Like, just because someone has I've seen people do that before. They're like, oh, you got to get knowledge to talk about things. And it's like, not really. I know dumb as rocks retards who are really good at conversation, right? Because they've talked to a lot of people and they know how to read people's emotions and they know. I mean, you could be stupid as shit and be the most interesting person to talk to because you ask questions like, "Oh, what's this mean? Oh, what's this mean? Oh, what's this mean? Oh, what's this mean? Oh, that's cool." Like you actually are interested in what they have to say and you know what to talk about. You see they're bored of the conversation, you switch conversation. You see they're interested, you switch to that. So you just you know how to switch topics, right? That's the sign of a good conversationalist. I'm gonna write that fucking down. This isn't a sign of a good conversationalist. I get video ideas from these. Fundamentals equals no conversations. Conversations die. No takeoff. Takeoff, then crash. It's good metaphors. People like metaphors. Okay, so for impromptu, absolutely insightful. I'll make sure to have this focus on my next approach. You're very welcome. Good, you're practicing. That's the only way you can learn is if you're trying. You're never gonna learn anything if you're not trying. Yeah. As long as you're approaching and you're asking questions, you're winning. Obviously, if you ask the right questions, then yeah, you'll win faster. But if you're trying, you're eventually gonna figure it out. Even the dumbest motherfucker will eventually figure it out. He might take 20 years, but he'll figure it out. Problem I run into is also that I over-explain or overthink while being direct. Yep. 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 I did the same thing. Had a girl tell me that. It was eye-opening. Yep. So the reason why you're over-explaining is because you don't have confidence in your directness. Like, basically, I want to fuck your mouth, right? Obviously, you and I both know it's a little bit more nuanced than that. Like, there's always a context, right? But what you're saying is, I want to fuck your mouth. You know, it would be so nice. You're such a cool person, and I would love to respectfully disrespect you by putting my dick in your mouth. And I hope that doesn't offend you. I'm saying it with a lot of love and care. You know, you start explaining why you're being direct, when instead you could just be like, "You got pretty lips. I'd love to fuck them." Then, after she responds to that, if she's like, "Yeah, I'd love for you to fuck me in my mouth," okay, you don't need to explain. But if she's like, "What? Like, what did you say?" Be like, "Well, I don't know. I feel like I just want to be direct here." And you start explaining yourself. Then you can explain. You can explain yourself. You just it's almost like you just need to wait 5 seconds. So be direct, and then be like, let's say you start talking about sex. Like, what do you like in bed? And if she's like, and you pause, right? And there's a moment of tension, and you feel the urge to over-explain, and you just go, "Nope, be quiet, Ron. Just let it be there." And then she goes, "Well, and then she like tells you something she likes in bed, and you're like, "Holy shit, it worked." But if then she's like, "Wow, that's very direct," then you can explain yourself because you need to, like, because she's a little bit like, oh, "Okay, maybe this is too much," and you go, "Okay, well, hey, you know, hey, sorry, my intention isn't to offend you. I don't know." I'd rather not beat around the bush and invite you to come for Netflix, right? I want to be direct with you and let you know what I want, and I want to talk to you about sex. It'd be nice for me to know what you like before we actually do it. So you're responding to her like indecision, not indecision, but her hesitance, right? So it's not so much. It's not that it. I mean, it's not as simple as, oh, you're not confident in your directness. That is part of it, but I think deeper, it's like it's not necessary. Almost like it breaks the spell. Like, all right, he's being direct. Holy shit, it has a lot of power behind it. And then you actually water down the power by over explaining it. Like direct. Okay, so the entire point of directness is to save time and just get straight to the punch. But then you take away the power. Like going direct is a haymaker. Most people play game. They're like jab, 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 and they stay back and they're afraid to ever go for the knockout. But a guy who's going direct, he's like, bitch, just overhand, and he's like, I want to smash your pussy. The power of the overhand is that it's a one hit knockout, but it's got to land. But it's not going to land if you're trying to hit 5 different places. You're focusing on one place. But if you're like being direct and then you're putting all these explanations, it's like you're doing an overhand and then you're trying to do a jab at the same time. It doesn't work. Your body has to give all its torque to the knockout punch. I don't know if that metaphor makes sense. I always I always laugh when I use fighting metaphors for picking up girls, but a lot of times it actually makes sense. It's actually it makes there's a lot of good metaphors, right? But it sounds like you're talking about beating women. Yeah, fighting metaphors are great. Fighting metaphors, like fighting and war metaphors, and like gaming metaphors. They're the fucking most useful things in the world because it's such a dynamic thing. So yeah. I probably should announce my my live streams beforehand. I kind of just wanted to be spontaneous. You know what you guys should do? You should sign up for Patreon. I think what I want to start doing with Patreon is I want to start sending guys video messages because I think it would give you so much more value than text on a screen. I know it's a bit expensive. It's like $100. But you could ask me questions like these, right? And I'd give you a response like I am right now, right? So I know that coaching is expensive. But if you sign up for Patreon, I can just send you videos like these. Like I'll send you like that. What that took me 5 minutes to say. Like I'd send you a 5 minute video explanation. It's in my description if you want to sign up for Patreon. Another thing where I feel girls lose interest in speaking with me is when I try to understand their background and they just explain it in boring terms and lose all interest. Okay, so I see what you mean. Um, well, here's an interesting thing. Like, there's a lot of different responses that I could get to that, but the one that comes to mind for some reason, and I don't know if this is somehow I know really what your issue is. These days, somehow I'm able to read people's issues pretty easily, even from across the world. I don't know what it is. Maybe I can fucking read minds, but what I think you're struggling with is maybe similar to what, or maybe I'm reading into Ron's stuff. But so what Ron was struggling with being direct is he was expecting the girl to give the same energy back. What I want you to try, Joshy, I'll just call you Joshy, is the next time you're talking to girls and you feel like they're not giving you they're giving you boring explanations, right? It's either because your fundamentals are bad, right? But you're going to focus on that. That's good. But if it is a conversational issue, and it's possible that's also a weakness of yours, don't get perturbed by her being boring. Don't let it discourage you. Like you're talking to her and she's kind of like, yeah, da da da. And then you let that affect your spirit. And you're like, you don't get inspired by her. It could be a lot of reasons. Like maybe she's just like not into you that much yet. Like she's willing to give you some conversation, but you haven't like turned her on yet. But the only way you're going to get to that point is if you try, right? So when you feel like I'm struggling for conversation, what you need to tell yourself is that's okay. It's okay that you're struggling through conversation. Like in order to become a good conversationalist, you have to push past that point of comfort where like, oh my god, I'm fucking pulling teeth trying to get information out of her. But then that's when you try this. Then let's say in 5 years you're a really good conversationalist and you get in a conversation with a girl and she's like, yeah, Then you can go, all right, nice meeting you, have a good day. And you're like, maybe she just wasn't into me. Or maybe she's just boring. Not everyone's everyone is interesting if you can get. Well, I don't know. Not everyone's interesting. Everyone has an interesting story, but not everyone's interesting. Like you're not going to sit there and be their friend for years to get to unpack their true interestingness. I mean, everyone has an interesting story. But the question is, like, does it take 100 hours to get to that part of the movie? Like, let's say, everyone's a movie. Like, okay, well, I'm going to have to talk to this person for 100 hours before they start becoming interesting. Well, is it really worth your time? Not really, right? But you're still learning how to conversate, right? So you need to sit there and go through the boring parts of movies to be able to find good movies and find bad movies, right? Then once you're a movie connoisseur, you can you can see I'll watch them like an anime or like a movie. I'll watch it for like 30 minutes. If it doesn't grab my attention, I'm done. Because I'm like, I know what I like, and sometimes I can be surprised. Like sometimes it's worth the wait. Like I played this game, Final Fantasy 14, and for the first like 150 hours, it was pretty boring. But I liked the atmosphere and da da da. Well, by hour 400, I was crying because it was like one of the best stories I've ever seen. Now, I had people telling me it was worth that investment, right? So I kind of had some expectations that it was going to get better. If I might have gotten bored without that, right? So the same with you. Like you're going to have these moments where you're like, man, I'm 100 hours in, 150 hours in, it still sucks. When is the movie going to get better? And it's like, just fucking, just crank it a little bit more. Just, I know you feel discouraged, and I know you feel like I'm not getting anywhere. And that's where the fundamentals thing is going to help you a lot, because that's going to evoke their interestingness, right? They're going to give you, like, you could have a girl who's boring as shit, and she's like, yeah, if she's like dreaming about your dick because she's attracted to you. Like I've met dumbass girls who are not interesting at all, but they're fun to be around because I know they want to suck my dick, and they're just interested. Like I met this one chick, I remember, sweet girl. I wish her all the best. But I met her at like a rave, and then I got her number and we chatted like a month later, and then we went on a date and we had dinner. She was interesting, but she was kind of just like really pretty and just like dumb. And then I was just like, hey, you want to get out of here? She's like, yeah. So I just took her back to my place, smashed her pussy, and then went out to party that night. And then we ended up meeting up again like a week later, grabbed some beers, went back to her room, raw dogged her a bunch, and then we were like chilling, and I was like trying to get to know her. I was like, yeah, so what's your thing? She's like, honestly, I just like to work, and then on the weekends, I love listening to techno and doing ketamine. Like she literally just told me, she's like, that's my life. I mean, I almost like have to respect the fact that she knew what she liked. She's like, that's just my thing. I like to I like to brave and take ketamine. And I remember she told me, like, she showed me this video of like this song. She's like, this song is a perfect representation of me. And she's just like, I'm just a party girl. Like she was just so. I mean, it's kind of interesting actually. Like she just accepted that. And but at the same time, I was like, really? That's your that's your essence? You like to listen to music and do ketamine? I was like, all right. Maybe you're in that phase of your life. And she wasn't interesting, but her pussy was really nice. I enjoyed her pussy. She was awkward in bed though. Like I'd be fucking her and I'd be like looking her in the eyes and I'm like, yeah, you like that? And she's like, she's like smiling, like, like one time I was like staring at her in the eyes and she got like nervous. She's like sticking out her tongue. She was just eh. you know, just like it was cute, but it was just like awkward. So I didn't see her anymore because she was kind of just basic. Um, Final Fantasy Metaphor was great. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's my favorite game of all time. Like this shit was amazing. But the first 150 hours were just very meh. Um, what are you looking for nowadays in terms of gaming or dating? Nothing. I'm settled down. I'm pretty settled down. I'm pretty happy. I'm focused on I'm focused on business. I'm focused on business and my meditation, like my journey in Buddhism. I don't really I don't really care that much about girls now. I got what I wanted. I'm pretty happy. So not much. And I'm okay with it. I pushed until I was like, I want to push so hard that I feel like I'm good. And I did. And I just pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. I was like, do I regret anything? And it's like, well, the only thing that I could say I would regret is I want to fuck another girl. And it's like, if that's the only thing that I want to like, then it's just that's an endless black hole. There's always going to be another girl to fuck. Like you'll never be satisfied, which is okay. Like that, but that's the nature of sensual pleasures. Like you're just going to always want another one. And I realized that the amount of energy I have to put in to get the amount of pleasure back isn't worth it anymore. It's no longer an interest. It's an interesting art for me to teach, but it's not an interesting art to execute anymore because I mean, I had someone ask me my lay count. It's like sometimes I'll be like, "Oh yeah, that girl. Oh yeah, that girl." So I don't know, man. I think it's like 120. I think that's probably a pretty fair bet, but it could be 110. But I think it's closer to 120. And then there's like, who knows how many girls that I straight up just rejected. Like they're like, "Hey, you want to fuck me?" And it wasn't like they were ugly. It's just like I wasn't into it. But I've straight up refused to have sex with like probably a couple dozen girls. And then who knows, like the girls of LMR. Like, dude, I would have like 250, 300 lays if I knew how to deal with LMR. Like, how many girls I've fingered or got my dick sucked by or eaten out? Like, it's a lot. Like, I sucked at LMR. So I could have a huge lay count. And I guess that would make me feel like more proud. But actually, I probably can teach you guys better because I fucked up so much. Like, I did so much stupid. Like, I was just stupid. Like, it's so weird to think about, like, yeah, I'm eating a girl's pussy and somehow I didn't fuck her. Like, it's just silly to me. But you learn a lot of lessons from those. So it's probably more useful for you guys that I made so many stupid mistakes. But I mean, what else do I want? Another pussy. It's I mean, it's pleasurable. But it's just, plus I gotta build some, I have some things that I want to do. I mean, who knows? I could die tomorrow. Um, well, I'd just start a new life. I'd be reborn somewhere. But for this life, I'd like to make some money so that I can support my mom. I want to donate to monasteries, help support, Buddhism a lot more. And I have a few projects in mind. I want to make a pickup anime. I think it's like the coolest idea. Someone actually recommended it to me, and then it was like this amazing idea. But I need a lot of money if I'm gonna fund an anime. Um, so, anyways, looks like we had a good little session. I mean, you only need 3 people to make a good session. So I hope you guys got some good insights. If you appreciated this and you want to get back, my Patreon is in my description. You can you can you can sign up for Patreon. You can get questions answered. It's only $100 a month. Um, uh, if you just want to support me, toss me a couple bucks on Patreon. I'd appreciate that. Um, and then if you want to buy my books or whatever, just let me know. Yeah, a webtoon or a manga. Yeah, it's probably the best bet is to make it a manga first, right? Or just storyboard it, right? Yeah, yeah. I guess hiring an illustrator would be the best bet. Yeah, you're right. That's the route things go is manga to anime. That's the cheaper, much cheaper alternative. You're right. So I'll start with manga. Very good idea. But I think it'd be great. It's the perfect demographic too. Like the people who need it the most. So if I really want to, help people, like those are the people who need it the most. But yeah, I'll see. We can make some stuff work. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope this is insightful. I'll try to do this every Sunday. I think I want to make this a regular thing, and hopefully get some more people on it. So I'll clip this after to where we started, and then hopefully people will see and get some insights from this, and then we can keep it going. All right, guys. Good luck with your life. Hope you're happy. Hope you're healthy. Blessings to you. I love you. And ciao, ciao, ciao.